Hurricane reports on Hurricane Michael. Unbelievably destructive, powerful. The one good thing we can say, we were just discussing, is that it was the fastest hurricane anybody's seen. It just was speedy. If it wasn't, there'd be absolutely nothing left. It was incredibly powerful. You've seen the destruction. It's moving through Georgia now at a much lesser pace, both in terms of speed and in terms of its power, 50, 60 mile an hour winds. But some of those winds reach almost 200 miles an hour, which is unheard of. People are saying it's the third most powerful that they've seen hit our country anywhere. We've done, I'll tell you, FEMA has gotten rave reviews. The first responders, law enforcement, everybody's gotten rave reviews. I just spoke with Governor Scott. They're very happy. Food is being now, following the hurricane, being now brought in. We have unbelievable large amounts of water and food and everything that people can want. The electric companies have been terrific. They're already working. The roads are being cleared out. Many trees are in the path of the electric companies. The roads are being cleaned right now. They're being, for the most part, they're open enough to get the electric companies in. And a lot of electricity is already back on. Some of the off electricity is already back on. That's in Florida. They're following up in Georgia. A lot of water will be in North and South Carolina, added to the horrible situation they had with Florence 2 weeks ago. But they're incredible people, and they know how to do it. They've done it before, and they'll do it again, but they know how to do it. So we've had great reports in everything. The big problem with this hurricane was the tremendous power. And fortunately, it was very fast. It went through Florida very, very quickly. It didn't linger, didn't come back as we had in Texas, where it actually came back a second time and then a third time. Went out, filled up, came back. This one went very quickly, but it's tremendous destruction. The areas where as the path that it chose is incredible, the kind of destruction. We've not seen destruction like that in a long time. But it's the rebuilding, I could actually say the rebuilding process and the survival looking process. We hope we don't have too much of that. The area most affected was hopefully 100% evacuated, but there's always somebody that stays. And in this case, they would have been in big trouble. But so far, the reports, as you know, are very good. So I want to thank you for that. And I don't know if you have any questions on the hurricane. Does anybody have any questions, John?
Do you have enough time to focus on the hurricane? It's a very busy day at the White House.
Yeah, I do. I have a very busy day today. We're doing, as you know, having to do with copyright music. We're doing right now the Save Our Seas Act of 2018, which is a very important thing. And yesterday I had a tremendous rally in Pennsylvania. And we had thousands of people lined up, and you couldn't tell those people. And they were there for a day and a half before. And I couldn't tell people that have been standing in line for a day and a half wanting to get into the arena that I'm not going. I went there. We had great control over what we were doing, both in Air Force One, at the White House, and in Florida. And I think we're getting tremendous marks for the job that we did. And I wasn't going to disappoint thousands and thousands of people who've been standing on line for, in some cases, a day and a half. I wasn't going to do that, but I think we've really done a job. This is a particularly busy day because we're signing a number of bills, very different kinds of bills. So you'll be seeing me a little while later, I think, with a couple of the senators standing behind me right now, and you'll be seeing me and us in a little while. And we're having lunch with Jim Brown, one of the great football players of all time and a great guy, and Kanye West. They're coming in for lunch. And after that, we're doing some additional interesting things. But we have a busy day, but I always have a busy day. And the economy is doing really well. We think jobs are going to be better than ever. We think records are broken already, but we're going to continue to break the records. So let's talk about the Save Our Seas Act, if we could. And again, thank you all for being here. I want to thank also the members of Congress that are with us. That's Senator Dan Sullivan, who's been absolutely terrific, worked along with Sheldon Whitehouse, and these two have been spearheading something that's very important, and we want to thank you both, Sheldon. Thank you,
Mr.
Dan. Thank you
President.
very much. We appreciate it. It's really, I know you worked very hard on it.
Work well together.
And Mrs. Sullivan, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it very much. We have Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, who worked along with the senators, and acting NOAA Administrator Admiral Tim Gallaudet. You're here, and thank you for being here, Tim. Thank you very much. Great job you're doing. Every year, over 8 million tons of garbage is dumped into our beautiful oceans by many countries of the world. That includes China, that includes Japan, that includes many, many countries. This waste, trash, and debris harms not only marine life, but also fishermen, coastal economies along America's vast stretches. The bad news is it floats toward us. I've seen pictures recently, and some of you have seen them, where this vast, tremendous, unthinkable amount of garbage is floating right into our coast, in particular along the West Coast. And we're charged with removing it, which is a very unfair situation. It comes from other countries very far away. It takes 6 months and a year to float over, but it gets here, and it's a very unfair situation. It's also unbelievably bad for the oceans. Every year, over 8 million tons of garbage is dumped into our beautiful oceans. And when you think of that number, I mean, to think 8 million tons, and I would say it's probably, senators, I think it's probably more than that based on what I've seen and based on the kind of work that I've seen being done. This dumping has happened for years and even for decades. Previous administrations did absolutely nothing to take on the foreign countries responsible. We've already notified most of them, and we've notified them very strongly. The Save Our Seas Act will help address this problem by extending the marine debris program for 5 additional years. We also are strengthening that up to improve waste management overseas and clean up our nation's water. We will boost the federal government's response to oceans waste by authorizing the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to declare severe marine debris events, which happen all the time. It's incredible. It's incredible. When you look at it, people don't realize it, but all the time we're being inundated by debris from other countries. This legislation will release funds to states for cleanup and for response efforts, and we will be responding, and very strongly. The legislation also encourages the executive branch to engage with those nations responsible for dumping garbage into our oceans.